Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder. Today we're diving into GoPro's Q2 2025 report, and let's just say it's a bit of a roller coaster. They face some headwinds, but there's also a glimmer of hope, so let's decode what's really going on. And if you like getting straight to the heart of these filings, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. Also head over to our Discord community, linked in the description below, to join the conversation. GoPro had about 131 million shares of Class A stock and 26 million shares of Class B stock outstanding. Pretty standard stuff here, just setting the stage for what's to come. Now let's talk about the money. GoPro's total revenue for the second quarter of 2025 was 156.2 million. This is a pretty significant drop compared to the same time last year when they brought in 186.2 million. That's an 18% decrease year over year. Think of it like losing one out of every 5 customers they had last year. What they brought in 86.2 million. That's an 18% decrease year over year. Think of it like losing one out of every 5 customers they had last year, or at least a big chunk of their spending. This was mostly because they sold fewer cameras and accessories. And that dip in sales is clear when you look at the number of cameras they shipped. They shipped 408,000 cameras in the second quarter of 2025, down a massive 29% from the 576,000 they shipped in the second quarter of 2024. The report blames this on a tougher global economy, making people hesitant to buy new gadgets and tough competition. But here's where it gets interesting. Even though they sold less, their gross margin actually went up. Gross margin for the second quarter of 2025 was 35.8%, a noticeable jump from 30.5% in the same period last year. This means for every dollar of sales, they kept more profit. The report says this is mainly because they spent less money on sales promotions and more of their revenue came from their higher margin subscription services. It's like they cut down on discounts and more people signed up for their ongoing services. This improvement in gross margin happened even though their total cost of revenue dropped by 24% to $97.7 million. This drop was helped by fewer sales, meaning lower manufacturing and related costs, plus a good chunk less spent on restructuring. Let's look at expenses. Research and development costs were $30.5 million 25. That's down from $46.9 million the same period last year. They're spending less on things like consulting for new chip development and personnel cost. This makes sense as they try to trim expenses, but it also means less money is going into creating the next big thing. Sales and marketing expenses also saw a big drop, falling 39% year over year to 25.20 money and barlaging, marketing campaigns and sponsorships. It seems like they're trying to be more efficient with their marketing budget due to the lower sales volume. General and administrative expenses were down 14% to $12.9 million, mainly from lower personnel and stock-based compensation costs. Overall, it looks like they're tightening their belts across the board. Now, for a pretty significant hit, they recorded an $18.6 million goodwill impairment charge in the first quarter of 2025. Basically, they had to admit that some of the value they recorded from past acquisitions wasn't as good as they thought. This often happens when a company's stock price falls, making its overall market value less than the value of its assets on paper. All of this led to a net loss of $16.4 million for the second quarter of 2025. While that sounds bad, it's actually a big improvement compared to the $47.8 million loss they had in the same quarter last year. They're still losing money, but at a slower pace. Let's look at their cash situation. As of June 30, 2025, GoPro had $58.6 million in cash and cash equivalents. This is down from $102.80 of 2024. Their cash pile is shrinking, which is a concern, especially when you consider they have upcoming debt payments. Speaking of debt, their 2025 convertible senior notes, which are essentially loans they might have to repay with stock, had an outstanding principal of $93.8 million as of June 30, 2025. These notes are due in November of this year. This is a major deadline they need to manage carefully. To help with liquidity issues, they drew $25 million from their credit line in February and paid back $20 million in June, leaving them with $39.8 million able to borrow. This credit line is a safety net, but it's important they can manage it and the upcoming note payments. They also recently secured a new $50 million loan, which is good news for immediate liquidity. On a more positive note, their subscription business is showing some resilience. The subscription attach rate, which is the percentage of camera sales that also include a subscription, was 56% in the second quarter of 2025. This is a solid increase from 45% in the same quarter last year. This shows that their ongoing services are becoming more popular, which is a good sign for future recurring revenue. Even better, their subscriber retention rate held steady at 68% in both the second quarters of 2025 and 2024. This means most people who sign up for their annual subscription stick around, which is crucial for a subscription-based model. Now, diving into the risks. GoPro operates in a world where cybersecurity is a massive concern. They're really worried about data breaches and cyber attacks that could mess with their website, their products, their services, and basically everything that keeps their business running. The report highlights that as artificial intelligence gets more advanced, cyber attacks could become even more sophisticated. Even with security measures, they acknowledge that their systems are vulnerable and a breach could really hurt their reputation and finances. One crucial risk they've been managing is their stock price. It seems their stock briefly dipped below the $1 minimum bid price required to stay listed on the Nasdaq Global Select Market. They did manage to get back above that threshold, but it shows how precarious their stock situation has been, and the risk of being delisted is a constant worry. It's also worth noting that their CEO Nicholas Woodman holds a significant majority of the voting power. This means he has a lot of control over the company's direction, which can be good for decisive leadership, but also means other shareholders have less say. Let's look at the financials more closely. The most striking thing is the contrast between falling sales and improving gross margins. While unit sales are down significantly, the fact that they're making more profit on each sale is a positive sign. It suggests they're either selling more of their higher-end cameras or are better at managing costs. The growing subscription revenue is also a bright spot, providing a more stable income stream. However, the shrinking cash balance and the looming debt maturity are serious red flags. They're walking a tightrope, and the recent $50 million loan is a critical lifeline. The goodwill impairment also points to potential issues with past acquisitions, which can sometimes drag down a company's financial health. Overall, GoPro is in a transitional phase. They are clearly struggling with declining hardware sales in a tough economic climate and competitive landscape. However, they are making efforts to improve profitability through cost cutting and by growing their subscription services, which are showing good traction. The key challenges are managing their debt, especially the upcoming convertible notes, and navigating the volatile market. If they can successfully transition more customers to their subscription model and manage their expenses, they might make it through this period. But the risks, particularly around cash flow and external economic factors, are substantial. So what's your take on GoPro's situation? Are they on the path to recovery or still in a precarious spot? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you found this breakdown helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more deep dives into corporate filings. And don't forget to join our Discord community linked in the description to keep the conversation going. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode of Corporate Decadent.